Did you know that you're poor because you spend too much money? You waste your money, you waste your government benefits. You're just not doing right. Because if you did right and lived the way everyone else thinks you should live, you wouldn't be poor. You'd be cha-chinging through life. You'd be able to save $1,000 a month and, buddy, you'd be living on Easy Street. Did you know that? Well, let's take a look at what it is to be poor. Let's take a look at the income levels and then let's research and see what poor is. I mean, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about, and nobody else does either. So let's see what the internet has to say about being poor. So I guess the best place to look is the HHS Poverty Guidelines. The 2025 Poverty Guidelines for the 48 continuous states and the District of Columbia. Anyway, HHS. The Department of Health and Human Services says that the poverty guidelines for the 48 continuous states and the District of Columbia. So this is 48 states and the District of Columbia, which is not a state. So the persons in the family and the poverty guidelines. So for one person, the poverty is $15,650 a year. And you are at the poverty line in 2025. So let me get out a calculator. I made only slightly more than that last year. That is $1,304 a month, and after taxes, it is $1,004 a month. So these people are living off $1,004 a month after taxes. And a single person doesn't have any kids. And every time I've ever calculated my paycheck as a single person, it was about 23%. Now, sometimes I would get money back at the end of the year, maybe $200 or $300. And other times, not so much. So, that's how much they're making after taxes. Now, this means that they can afford a $430 a month apartment. That's a lot. That's a lot to pay for an apartment with only $1,000 of take-home pay. But you're probably not going to find any cheaper than that, and I'd be worried about where that was located in 2025. But that's what they can afford according to everything. Now, some places have even said that 50% of your income can go towards your housing. So that would be $652. So they could live in a place that is $652 a month. But that would leave them, boy, would they be broke. Because your take home is only $1,004. So that would leave them with $351 a month to pay the rest of their bills, whatever those are. I hope they don't have any credit card payments or loans or even a car payment. That's terrifying. But that's what they say the poverty level is for one person. Now, for two people, it's $21,150, which means those two people can each earn $10,575 a year. Now, if it's three people, we're assuming this is going to be two adults and a child. So $21,150 divided by 2, we're going to assume 2 working adults. Is that? Oh, I did it wrong. $26,650 for 3 people. divided by 2. We'll assume 2 working adults and 1 child. So each of those adults can make $13,325 a year, or that can't possibly be right. If I could math, folks, that would be great. 133.25 divided by 52 divided by 40. They're not working full time. That's not working full time. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. And most places now pay about $15 an hour. So they'd be working, what is that? 13. We'll assume they're making $15 an hour. They're working 888 hours a year. Divide by 52. That's 17 hours a week. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. All right. So if you got 4 people in your house, we'll assume 2 adults and 2 kids. 4 people in your house, you can make $32,150. Each adult can make $16,075. Divide by 52. Divide by 40. Well, now they can make the minimum wage. If you got 4 people in your house, the 2 parents can work full time at $7.72 an hour, 72.73 cents an hour. All right. So that's poverty. Those are the federal poverty guides according to the Health and Human Services. Now, what would you buy if you made that much money? Where would you live? So, let's find out how many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So, according to an article written on CNBC, which references Bank of America. I'm really not a fan of Bank of America. Their business practices are, yeah. Nearly half of Americans at least somewhat agree with the statement, I am living paycheck to paycheck, as of the third quarter of 2024. So that would have been October, November, December 2024. So about 6-7 months ago, something like that. All right. And things really haven't gotten any better. So yeah, half of Americans believe they are living paycheck to paycheck. Living paycheck to paycheck, let's see what the definition of that is. Living paycheck to paycheck means that you're spending nearly all of your income on essential expenses like rent, utility, and groceries, leaving little or no surplus for saving or investing. It essentially means that your income just covers your bills and you have little to no discretionary income. Okay, this means you're not going out to eat. You're not buying clothing. You're not buying new bras. You're not buying new underwear. You're not buying new shoes. Okay? And you're really watching your pennies. That is what living paycheck to paycheck is. So, the share shrank slightly between the second and third quarters of 2024. But in 2022, less than 40% of Americans felt this way. So more Americans feel like they are living paycheck to paycheck currently than they did back in 2022. Inflation, folks. It's inflation. I am worse off today than I was 5 years ago. So, in Bank of America's study, they decided that households spending at least 90% of their income on necessities could be considered living paycheck to paycheck. Let's go back to these poverty guidelines. For one person, you're spending at least 90% of your paycheck. So that would be, do we say they get paid weekly or bi-weekly? I think everybody gets paid weekly these days. 650 divide by 52. We'll say they get paid weekly. So they get $300.96 weekly. Weekly times 0.77. We got to take out taxes. And they take home $231 a week. And if they're spending $208 a week or more, they are living paycheck to paycheck. So, conversely, let's say that they're just spending $208 a week. They can actually put 10% of their income into a savings account, or they can invest it. So that would be they could save $23 a week. That would be incredible, folks, for a poor person to save $23 a week. So they save $23 a week times 52. They will have saved $1,196 if they could do it. If they could figure out how to do it. I tell you, for a poor person to save that, that's like anybody else saving $10,000 or $20,000 a year, or more, $50,000 a year. Onward. So households spending at least 90% of their income on necessities are considered living paycheck to paycheck. By that measure, around 30% of American households are living paycheck to paycheck, according to Bank of America's internal data. Okay? According to Bank of America's internal data. Further, 26% of that 30% are spending 95% or more of their income on necessities. So 30% of American households are living paycheck to paycheck, according to this study. And of that 30%, 26% of those households are spending 95% of their income on necessities. And it goes on to say that it's worth noting that not all transactions were captured in the data, which only tracked post-deduction incomes and funds kept in the Bank of American accounts. However, it still highlights the discord among Americans in the ways that they see themselves in their financial situations. Perceptions can sometimes deviate from reality. Yeah, I've heard that. I had a friend one time that said they were so broke. They were so broke. They only had $500 in the bank. And they just spent $300 on computer games. But they're so broke. They spent $300 on computer games. And they have $500 left in their account. I'd be feeling pretty confident with my financial situation if that were true for me. All right. So, yeah, it's all about perceptions. If I had $500 in the bank that I needed to do nothing with, I would consider myself very well off for that moment in time. And David Tinsley says, I suspect people have a slightly broader perception themselves. And that's a senior economist at the Bank of America Institute, and author of the report. Someone who works a decent paying full-time job may go out to dinner a couple times a month, for example, bringing their total monthly spending closer to their income. Technically, going out to eat is not a necessity, but it's also not considered an amazing splurge either. I don't know, though. I've seen some pretty high restaurant bills. But, the same goes for saving for emergencies or retirement, which may be viewed as a necessity to some, but a luxury to others. So, here's the thing. What do you think is living paycheck to paycheck? You've heard Bank of America's definition. What to you is living paycheck to paycheck? Your definition may be different. So then it goes on to say, who has room to cut back? Because I'm telling you, I've heard ever since I was in college that people are poor, not because they don't earn enough, but because they spend too much. If you could only cut back, you would save thousands. If you would only cut back, you would save thousands of dollars a month. Well, what is it if you only make $1,500 a month? You'd have to save your whole paycheck. You'd have to have like expenses of zero to save more than $1,000 a month in that scenario. In fact, I think in that scenario, being able to save $20 or $50 a month would be a miracle. That would be a miracle on that wage. And I bought into that hardcore. I really did. I bought into the cut back, cut back, cut back. You're just spending too much money. Cut back, cut back, cut back. Lower your standard of living. Reduce your house payment. Reduce your car payment. Reduce your subscriptions. Reduce your food bill. Reduce your car insurance. Reduce. You're poor because you're spending too much money. I really bought into it, folks. I went from living in an apartment complex paying $550 a month to living in this paying $237 a month, and now it's back up to $480, and the utilities were actually more expensive. I paid off my car and I kept it and I ran it until it died hardcore. I mean, it died, done, and was finished, and I didn't buy another car. Scale back. I had full coverage car insurance, since I rarely drove my car because I started working from home, because scale back. I started working from home because going to work was too expensive. So I could save $4,000 or $5,000 a year by not going to work, by working from home. I can save another, at the time car payments were $350 a month, insurance was $100 a month. So I could save $450 times 12. I could save another $5,400 a month by not having a car. Scale back. Don't buy luxury groceries. Don't buy brand name groceries. You'll save money. And I bought into it. And eventually I even quit smoking. That was $150 a month to smoke. Then it was $200 a month for the nicotine gum, and I finally gave that up. So I should be saving another $2,400 a month. So how much money should I be saving a month? $2,400 plus $5,400 plus another $5,400. $13,200 a year. That's how much I should be saving every year, just as a ballpark figure. Because cut back, scale back. And I'm telling you, for every reduction I've ever made, I've gotten hit by somebody wanting more money, a bill wanting more money, somebody wanting to pay me less money. I mean, it's a never-ending cycle, folks. So you cut back, because you're spending too much money. And eventually, folks, you're just like, when does it end? For every $10 I scale back, somebody wants $20. What do you do? And then they're like, if that doesn't work, diversify. Don't count on one income stream. Diversify. Or start your own business. And diversify. I did that too. In fact, I'm still doing that. I've got so many income streams, it's hard to keep track of them. I have the freelance writing side of my business. Okay? That's 3 different income. All right, the battery died. My apologies. All right, so, all right, where was I at? So, income streams. I've got 3 income streams on the freelancing side. I've got 2 income streams on the fiction side. I'm an Amazon affiliate. Any link down in the description, it's probably an Amazon affiliate link. Unless it's my website. I've got Buy Me a Coffee and GoFundMe links down in the description. 2 more income streams. I'm about to get the first stage of monetization from YouTube. Another income stream. I feel like I'm missing some. Yeah, I'm probably missing a few. Those are all the income streams that I have that I can recall off the top of my head. So, and I sell novels. Did I say that? So I'm diversified. And on top of that, I've been looking for another W-2 part-time job, like 2 days a week, just to shore things up a little bit more. And I'm thinking, when would I have time to do that? I don't know. But I would make time to do it because the W-2 job, if I claimed zero deductions, it would probably pay my taxes at a bare minimum. Probably wouldn't do much more than that, but it'd probably pay the taxes that I owe at the end of the year at a bare minimum. And that's the thing, too. What they don't tell you about starting your own business. You will be paying 100% of your taxes. If you are in a situation where you would normally owe 0 taxes, if you own your own business where you're a 1099 employee, you will be paying taxes. Okay, I have not technically owed taxes in a decade, but I owe employment taxes. I owe self-employment taxes. I owe the taxes that my W-2 employer, if I had one, would be paying. So they don't tell you that one, folks. And that one, buddy. So you don't get to escape taxes by going into business for yourself. You do get to see all of your money, but you better have a tax plan. Some tax plan. Anyway, who has room to cut back? As you might expect, the share of households living paycheck to paycheck is highest among the lowest earners. About 35% of households earning less than $50,000 a year have necessary spending in excess of 95% of their incomes, compared with a little over 20% of households earning between $75,000 and $100,000 a year. That's what Bank of America found. Now here's the deal. If I were making $75,000 to $100,000 a year, I would be on easy street. Oh boy. I'd have all the money I needed. Because I already don't buy, I know how to live without a lot of these necessities that people think they need. In fact, the only thing I'd probably buy is a vehicle, but I plan to do that anyway, at some point. So they go on to say, but earning a low income doesn't inherently cause those households to live paycheck to paycheck. Higher expenses seem to be a bigger reason households are strapped for cash each month. And this is where I was getting into the point where cut back. You're spending too much money. And you might be. But there's a point where you can cut back where it really impacts your quality of living. And I was there at one point. I even had a prepaid track phone that I never used because it was prepaid. And I spent, I think, $30 a month on that. And I had that for years until Comcast came out with their cell phone plan, which is what I have now. But it's pretty pricey these days. I pay $41 a month. And that is, I have phone insurance too. If you own one of these, you have phone insurance, folks. You do. And this is paid off. This was my birthday present one year, several years ago to myself. This phone is paid off. And it's also destroyed. The inside is pretty well destroyed. But I'm not replacing it anytime soon. This is the phone that I'm going to have until my money increases, because I can't afford a $40 a month cell phone bill and another cell phone payment to buy another one of these. And I buy one like this because of my vision problems. So, yeah, I do have vision issues. So anyway, about 20% of households earning more than $50,000 a year spend over 95% of their income on necessities, according to Bank of America. So, for that one, if you're spending 95% of your income at $150,000 a year, what is that? $142,500. Now, is that before or after taxes? It really doesn't say, but that might. I wish they would say if that was before or after taxes, because when I do this math, it looks like they can save $8,000 a year. I would love to be able to save $8,000 a year. So I don't know. Yeah, interesting. All right. So part of this may be due to the fact that higher earning families are more likely to have larger homes and more expensive cars, leading to higher monthly costs. Now, there's something I never did. When I was working my way up through the W-2 ranks, I tried to keep my expenses in line with what they were. So if I was making $20,000 a year and I had X expenses, when I made $30,000 a year, I tried to make sure I had the same expenses as $20,000 a year. And for the most part, I was able to do that. So by the time I got to $40,000 a year, right before the Great Recession, which was actually a depression, I was actually able to save about $6,000 in the year and a half that I had that job before I was laid off. Because I did not increase my bills. Because I was always afraid that the tides were gonna turn, and they did, unfortunately. That's the other thing about being poor. You anticipate, even if things get better, that they could get worse at the drop of a hat. So whatever extra money you do get, you try to save it, even if it's $1 or $2, because you might need that $1 or $2. And here's the thing. But even as broke as I am, I try not to have my accounts at zero. Because if you have no money at all in your accounts, you are in deep trouble if something comes up. And if that means I have to delay paying a bill, then I do. Because if you have no money in your accounts and something comes up, it's a big problem, right? Just the way I do things, because I've been poor for years and years and years and years. And the worst feeling is needing something and knowing that your next paycheck isn't for a week or two, and you have $0. That is a terrible feeling, folks. So, all right, so we just covered the higher monthly cost for people earning more. It goes on to say, the data shows that on average, households living paycheck to paycheck spend about 90% more on necessities than those living comfortably, but their incomes are only 20% smaller. What? So, oh, God. All right, I'm going to do it. For one person, the poverty guideline is $15,650. So a single person living comfortably would make 20% more than that. Or $18,780 a month. Divide by 52. So the person making $9, the single person making $9 an hour, they're living comfortably, while this person making $7.52 an hour isn't living comfortably. I don't think either one of those people are living comfortably. And I sure as hell don't think that these people are living comfortably. $54,000 a year for 8 people. That is $6,768.75 per person. I mean, obviously that's not going to be, everybody's not going to be working. I have probably 2 adults and grandma and 5 kids. Could be grandma and grandpa and 4 kids. Alaska's got slightly higher income levels. A little bit more. So, right. Okay, back to Bank of America. All right. So, this article goes on to say this can be due to a myriad of reasons, such as family size or geography. But while lower income households with too high essential costs may not have access to more affordable options, higher earning households likely have more room to cut expenses and recalibrate their spending. I know this for a fact, folks. I don't have any place else to cut spending. I've even cut the majority of my food expenses. I get most of my food for free from the food pantry. I've even cut that expense. Do you know how creative you have to be to literally cut every expense you have except for the bills that keep you housed and keep me in employment? My internet bill is an essential bill. That soda is, I need to empty that trash can. This week I don't even have any soda, which is fine. I need to drink some water. It's hotter this week, so water. With water flavoring, it is. I need to get more water. I might do that if it's not raining. For people at the low end of the income distribution, almost certainly they're not going to be able to cut back on their groceries. And they probably can't move to a more affordable area. Dude, if there was a more affordable area, I would be there. I would be there. I've been looking around because I still think that cutting expenses is the way to go, even though it has never worked for me in the past. You know what happens if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results anyway? But I keep looking for a more affordable place to live. And what I'm finding is that the more, like any cheaper than this, I'm either way, way, way out in the country, meaning I better grow everything I got because I ain't getting anywhere. Or I am deep, deep, deep in a neighborhood that is dangerous, okay? In a neighborhood that the cops won't even go into. And here's the deal. I grew up in the near ghetto, so I'm very familiar with this kind of thing. Being aware of your surroundings. Hyper aware of your surroundings. Okay? If there's a guy walking 3 blocks back behind you, you need to know that he's there. If there's somebody up there sitting on their porch, you need to know that they're there. If there's a car coming up here and they're cruising real slow, you need to be aware. In fact, you need to step over. They're not doing nothing good. Okay? If you drive into a gas station in that area, you need to look around. Who's there? What are they doing? Okay? And if it's looking shady, you look at the gas gauge and be like, can I make it to the next one? Because there ain't nothing good going on here. Okay? That's the area I grew up in. And we're talking about areas worse than that. Hey, but they're affordable. You may not live through it, though. Now, I was in the near ghetto. Other members of my family were in the ghetto. I mean, it wasn't the bad ghetto. I mean, you could still mostly walk down the street, but they were in the ghetto and selling drugs and doing drugs and this, that, and the other thing. And, so I know all about that. And most of them survived and they got out and they're doing all right now. They got to lie without spending too much time in jail. Don't spend time in jail if you do that. But, that's the kind of stuff I've seen. That's the kind of stuff I've dealt with. And, people look down on those people. I've been called some really nasty names in the last couple of weeks. I mean, did you know that I'm a lazy, worthless loser? I am the sole reason that poor people are so looked down upon. Did you know that? Jesus. But anyway. All right, and the rest of this is just trash. All right, so that's the end of that article. Let's see, what else can we go into? Let's do this. Why are people poor? Let's go with, this is the summary, but let's go with Feeding America. Causes and solutions. In America, people work hard every day, but sometimes affording food and housing is a challenge. This situation is called poverty. When you can't hardly afford your food or housing, you are poor. Poverty has been a problem throughout the ages. In fact, in the Victorian era, there was a thing called alms for the poor. That's where the rich people sent some food out for the poor and fed them. This situation is called poverty, and while income plays a role, poverty affects people from all walks of life. It's especially difficult for families with children, people of color, and people with disabilities. I'm here to tell you, anyone can fall into poverty at any moment. It's really wild how people look down on poor people. Here's the deal. If you lose your job and you have to go on unemployment and find another job, if you can't find a job before your unemployment runs out, you're going to be poor, and you might even end up homeless. And here's the deal. If your bills are not small enough to be covered by the unemployment, you're going to find yourself in some serious financial hardship real quick. Real quick. It always amazes me how people look down on poor people. Anyone can become poor at any time. This is why there are so many prepper channels. This is why there are so many channels talking about how to survive while you're poor. This is why this channel exists. I'm actually a business owner in poverty. I run my own businesses. And that doesn't even save you. You think it does. They tell you it does. They tell you going to college will save you. Just, my God, if it could be done, if they said it could be done and it would result in a better situation, I have done it. And I'm telling you, sometimes you just get dealt a bad hand all day long. We got to make the best of it. And you got to learn how to deal with it. And that's why all these channels exist. That's why people are talking about it, and that's why it should be talked about. You've got to know what to do if your money runs out. And hopefully you see it coming so that you can avoid living under a bridge or in a tent on public land or in some backwoods somewhere. Pissing in a tree stump. Yeah. Facts about poverty in America. Many people in America face challenges getting food and resources they need to live healthy, full lives. Here are some facts about poverty in America. In the U.S., a family of four earning under $30,000 a year is considered low income. Now, we just did, I got rid of it, didn't I? Well, let's see here. Open, reopen, close tab. Family of four making under $30,000 a year. So this has been a little while. It's gone up. It's now $32,150 for a family of four, but that's not much of an increase. Okay. In 2023, over 36 million people lived in poverty, according to the census. 36 million people. All right, that is not, I hate that when it does that. I want population of Indiana, and it freaking did Indianapolis. 6.92 million people live in Indiana. 36 million people lived in poverty in the United States. That is 6 times the number of people that live in the whole state of Indiana. And here's a better one for you. 2/3 of the people facing food insecurity in America reported incomes above the poverty line. So food insecurity is a bigger problem than just being on the poverty line. So even people making more money than the poverty line are still having problems finding food. People of color are more likely to experience poverty. People from all different races and backgrounds can experience poverty, but it is more common for people of color because of racism and discrimination. It still exists, folks. It still exists. And it still exists against women, too, which blows my mind sometimes. People with disabilities and chronic conditions are also more likely to experience low incomes and hunger. Yeah. Causes of poverty. Poverty is a complex issue with many causes. However, here are some of the common causes of poverty. Low wages and unemployment. And here's the problem. This is true. It is low wages and unemployment. But as they increase the minimum wage, it doesn't help anyone. I made $15 an hour in 2006, 7, 8, and then I made more than that after that for a little bit. And I was living okay on $15 an hour. I might still live okay on $15 an hour now, but I know how to do it. But the problem is that it's not really helping. And that was without a car payment. I didn't have a car payment. I owned my car. I bought my car in cash with installment payments to the individual that I bought it from. And I kept that car for 25 years. After that car died, I didn't buy another one. That's how I made it on $15 an hour. 15 times 40 is $600 a week. It's $31,200. Yeah, I'd probably still be pretty well off at $15 an hour. But I know how to do it. Would I be well off at $15 an hour if I bought a brand new house and a car and stuff like that? No, probably not. I doubt it. But every time they increase the minimum wage, they take it out of the customer's hide. So, I just saw an article the other day on the price of a Big Mac. Here, let's do that. The price of a Big Mac. It was in the news. Let's go for news. I just saw it the other day. There it is. How much a Big Mac cost in 2000 versus today? In the year 2000, a Big Mac cost $2.24, and we thought that was expensive. But it was affordable. I had my share of Big Macs. I could still eat them in the year 2000. They didn't affect my butt too badly. Now it's like taking a laxative. I don't eat them. Now, the average cost of a Big Mac is $5.75. So what was the average yearly income in 2000? The average annual pay for U.S. workers in 2000 was $35,296. That was an increase from $33,340 in 1999. So, we're going to keep that, and we're going to go, what is the average yearly income in 2024? $63,000, folks. Wow. I would be living large on $63,000. Median salary is $59,436. Are you kidding me? The average annual salary in the U.S. is $59,000. Wow! So, $63,795 minus that didn't do it. $35,226. So people today are making $28,000 more than the average person made in the year 2000. $80% more? Is that right? Somebody that can math can figure that out. But I think that is 80% more. 80% more. And Big Macs are more than twice the cost. More than twice the cost they used to be in 2000. Because if they were double the cost, they would cost $4.48. Now if they were 80% more, they would cost $4.03. So the cost of a Big Mac has increased faster than the percentage of wages earned, than the increase on the percentage of wages earned. Thought I saw something in the middle of the road. If Big Macs had kept up with the rate of salary increase, a Big Mac would cost $4.03. Now, I'm gonna have to let me clear a page here. I need to write this down or I'm gonna lose it. All right, so no. Okay, 2000. I got a notepad on my other screen, but the average salary was $35,296, and in 2024, the average salary was $63,795. All right, I'm gonna lose track of myself if I don't write something down. Let's clear some of this out. I want to know what the average cost of a house in 2000. In the U.S., the average cost of a house in 2000 was $202,900. And that would be, and the median home value was $119,600. And today, that $202,000 house would be worth $361. That means the house would go with $202,900, and then average cost of a house in 2024 in America, $416,100. Folks, now let me bring my my board back over here. All right, check this out. So in 2000, the average wage was $35,296, and the average home price was $202,900. In 2024, the average income was $63,795, and the average home price is $416,100. So, it's more than twice. My math is so bad. So that's more than twice what it would be, or what it should be. Now let's say we do the same 1.8, 202. So actually houses today should cost $365,220. But they're more than doubled in price. So for an 80% increase in wages, housing has more than doubled. The cost of a Big Mac has more than doubled every time they do this, folks. The bottom rung keeps making more money in an effort to push them above the poverty line. And then the cost of things is greater than the wage increase. Right? How can you get ahead? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Raising wages is not the answer, because these companies are going to take it out of your hide. Okay? They're going to get their money and then some. And this is what this is proven. McDonald's had to raise wages, so they raised the cost of a Big Mac even more than the percentage of the raised wages. You know, housing costs more as a percentage of today's wages. Actually, it's a multiplier of today's wages than it did back then. They gave everybody more money, and now these companies are gimme, gimme, gimme. They want every last dime you got, folks. Every last dime. You know? If you're doing well, be grateful. If someone isn't doing as well as you, don't put them down. That's not nice. It's not being a good Christian. Just because someone is going through hard times doesn't mean that you're immune. Think about that. You know, do everything you can not to tear other people down if they're experiencing hardship. And take steps to prepare yourself against hardship. I mean, I'm seeing videos all over the place that says the store shelves are going to be empty. So even if you make money, you won't be able to buy anything. Now, I haven't dove into it. If I do, it'll be another video. But apparently the tariff thing is real, and it's going to create a lot of hardship for everybody. So you may not be poor, but you may still feel the pinch here in a few weeks. Anyway, folks, that's it for this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I wish every one of my subscribers and everyone who views this video well, even if you don't wish me well. Thank you, and have a fantastic day.